a theme song if you want to. Oh, okay.
Look at that dude.
Look at that dude. Nice.
Oh, look at that. Hey, it's Tuesday evening, and that means it's Idle Zone Syndicate time. Jack Graves literally beat me into the studio. He's already made the first comment. So welcome to the second episode of 2025. I just literally slid in the door from grandpa babysitting duties. And here I am.
That's a good time.
What's shaking? Oh, look where Mr. Crank is.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, that's
okay.
That's all right.
Do you find that offensive? Oh,
no.
Okay.
It's basketball season. It's basketball season.
He's used to it by this time.
Yeah, it is. It is basketball season.
Yeah.
Boat show season too.
Boat show season.
It is boat show season. Has anybody been to any?
And I used to go when I was younger to the Tulsa show every year, and look forward to it. Jimmy Houston used to be there, and I think it was Okie Bug Tackle had the big, had all the stuff right as you walk in, and just a lot of good memories come back from that one. And I haven't talked to a friend of mine with Bill's Marine and Skytook yet, but I know since he took ownership, they really did do good in the sales side of things when he started going there. So I think that was last weekend. I think the Kansas City show was last weekend as well, right?
I don't really know when the shows were where. I know they must have started because guys started calling this week for their reservations. So they've gone to the shows and they've picked up their brochures from all the tournaments that they're going to fish and starting to make reservations and all that. So that's a good thing.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah, we needed that. There's Mark Moody checking in, Jack. I did not even have. I've been so busy, and I know we haven't had any guests, but I've been so busy that I didn't even check the Winter Series jackpot tournament. I don't know what it took to win. Do any of you here on Grand?
I think I saw Paul Smith and his partner won with 23 and some change.
And that was, I don't know how many people fished it because that was right after the big snow, and
yeah,
they were talking about whether they were going to have it or not, and they did. So, but yeah, another 23-pound bag. So fish are still biting, and I'm still not fishing because I still don't have a lower unit. But I do have some news on that front.
Wow.
I do have some news on that front. They found it, and it made it to OBS or wherever they rebuild them. And as I was kind of hoping they wouldn't find it because I had a feeling this would happen. They are trying to say I hit something, and they don't want to cover it fully. And, we've sent pictures of the prop and I didn't hit anything. And I've argued with the guy. So long story short, it costs about $1,200 to rebuild one of those, and I'm paying $600. So I guess that's a sort of a blessing, but it should be covered under warranty, but it's not. But it's supposed to be here, supposed to have been here by today, and I haven't heard whether it is or not. So, and once again, it's been nice weather the last couple of days, and I don't have a way to get out there. So, a little frustrating because I'd like to get out there. But I've been busy. I have been busy. Probably a good thing that I couldn't go fishing. Did I tell you about the guy that moved in across the street, across the road
No.
in a little shed? So right before the cold snap, right after Christmas, we came back from Christmas, and there was one of those like storage unit sheds that all these people are turning into tiny homes. There was one of those across the road where those trailers are. And
great.
And I thought, okay, well, I mean, the last trailer was an eyesore, and they moved it out. And this looks much better. It's a nice looking little shed. But anyway, we're in our camper, right before this cold snap, and we get a knock on the door. And it's a guy wanting to know it's a 30-year-old kid, all tatted up with scoliosis, and he's got a chest plate in his chest, and he's wanting an extension cord because he doesn't have any power. And he wants to run this extension cord to the landowner's well house. The guy said he could run an extension cord there, and it's got a mini split on it, so it can be plugged in and they can heat their place. So I take an extension cord over there, 100-footer, and that 100-footer, I latched on to the other 2 or 3 25-footers that he already had put together, and we were still 75 feet short from this pump house. So I go.
Oh my!
So I go back to the house and I get another 100-footer. We hook it up. We get it, and I go in to get his mini split working. And this kid is in there, and remember now, it's going to get below freezing for like coming up on 4 days, not going to get above like 20 degrees. It was before that cold snap. And I go in there, and he's got nothing. He's got like half insulation, no plumbing. He's got a shower and a toilet and a sink and a hot water heater and a water heater with none of it. And it's plumbed, but there's no drainage plumbing, like to go out to the septic. So he doesn't have any of that, and he's got no power. And it's getting ready to get really cold. So we get his mini split going, and we get his mini split going, and then it quits working. So he's got a propane heater in there, and I take him a propane tank, and we get the propane heater working. This goes on for like a week. We're trying to get him warm enough where he can survive. And so we eventually I get him an electric heater, space heater. He's got somebody else gave him an electric space heater. He's on disability. He's got no money. He's got nothing. And So then we get him a good propane, indoor propane heater from the local hardware store donates one, and we go get it for him, and we set all that up, and we get him through the cold snap. But I'm feeling it, and then he gets a generator so he doesn't have to run the 100-foot cord. One cord will do it with the generator. So for the last week, I've been just about every day either running him to get propane or running him to get gas, keeping that going. You know me. I get myself in way too deep, like I'm already in way too deep. And I call the guys from our church group, and one's a plumber, and I'm like, I'm sorry for even calling you, and my heart has got me in way too deep already, but can you come look at this guy's plumbing? So he comes out, and he looks at it, doesn't write one single thing down that we're going to need to plumb this place. And he comes out the next morning, and we plumb it, get it run, get everything hooked back together, run to the septic, and he was within 6 inches of what we needed. Like, he went and bought stuff, and it was like within 6 inches. So we got plumbing. Yesterday, we just got the power. Another guy from church came out, and we had to get a disconnect box put on the pole before the PSO would come out. An electric company would come out and put a meter in and turn it on. So we did all that yesterday. Took all day. We got that done. And today I've been running around just getting him stuff, a chair from church and some bowls and stuff that he can eat out of. And the church is going to donate some other stuff, some microwave and, just little things. And that's what I've been doing for like 2 weeks, is keeping this kid alive, really. And, he's a good kid. I think he's trying to change his life around. He's been in prison and all that. So I think we're getting somewhere with him, and I think he's going to be okay. But man, these folks that do that for a living, like keep homeless folks in the stuff that they need and all that. Man, I have such a newfound, respect for those folks, because, I couldn't do it every day. And like my pastor was saying this morning, those folks have it really hard because they get sucked into it, not sucked in, but they just put so much into it. And for like every one success story, like I'm hoping this kid is, there's like 10 people that just fall back into their ways and don't care, or don't make the effort to change. So I'm hoping this kid is that way. He's going to go to men's group with me Thursday night, maybe church Sunday. I'm just hoping we've done enough to get him headed down the right path. That's what I've been doing. So it's probably a good thing. So it's probably a good thing I didn't have a lower unit, because that would be an excuse, to get away.
Yeah. Things work out like that, don't they? It's funny how they just magically work out like that.
Yeah. Well, that kind of took that was a long story. So let's get our guest in here, Kyle.
A little introduction.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mark Menendez, sorry, joins us tonight.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. We've been fishing with BASS for 30 years. He's got 280 total events, 180 times or 150 times in the money, which is pretty awesome. 6 classics under his belt, 3 first place finishes, which one of them I would like to dive into for a minute because I think it's really cool. 29 top 10s, 58 top 20s, and 7,903 pounds total in your career weighed in across the big stage. So he called
79. That's 7,800 pounds more than I have in my career.
calls Paducah, Kentucky his home, and your favorite lake on Bassmaster is Lake Martin in Alabama, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, it's a cool place, guys. Thank you for having me. It's kind of funny that Lake Martin quickly became one of my favorites on one of the first years that I fished on tour. I went down there and pre-practiced for an event, and the first day of pre-practice a month early, I had 100 fish day and just fell in love with it down there. And if you don't like spotted bass, it's not the place to go, but I absolutely love to catch those things. And I just fell in love with the area and the place. And it's always been on my top favorite list, Lake Martin, Alabama.
I can definitely tell that, like I was talking to you a little bit ago, Alabama is one of your favorite places because it looks like you've been pretty successful there a few times.
Well, Alabama has always been really good to me. I made several classics in Alabama. I've been to several classics there. A couple of my wins came in Alabama. It's just a very diverse fishery state with many different fisheries in it. And that's why there are so many quality anglers that come from that area. And it just fits my style. Most of those, with the exception of Smith Lake, which is a tough place to fish, but it just fits my style, and I just have done very well there for some reason. Well, the Tennessee River runs through it. We've had lots of Gunnersville, Pickwicks, and Wheeler tournaments, and that helps get those 7,800 pounds in there, John.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't dive into it too terribly deep, Mark, but were some of those Alabama events, were they different times of the year, or?
Oh yeah, I've been there. We've had February tournaments in Gunnersville. I won on Pickwick and Wilson in March. We've had fall tournaments in Wheeler. We've had fall tournaments down, open championships down on the Alabama River. So I've been all over the place. Seminole, there's part of Seminole is in there, and then the world famous Lake Eufaula, which you guys up there in Oklahoma have one of those. It's just an amazing place. So yeah, it's a 12-month fishery, that's for sure.
Well, I'd like to see some fall tournaments come back into the Bassmaster schedule. I think it'd be pretty cool.
Oh, I totally agree. Those are grinder tournaments when you feel like you've won the tournament if you get your limit those days, and a little square bill going down the bank or some kind of a flat side crankbait, get you a bite here, and then you see a boat dock and pitch a jig, and one hits a top water over there, and you back 20 rods and reels, and you're just trying to just please give me 5. I've seen a lot of those. I wish we could have more of those.
Yes. Make it something to where you can see a little bit of everything happen all at one time.
Oh, absolutely. Right now I'm just getting my boat rigged, and I've got it out here in the driveway, and it's rigged and it's ready. And so I'm waiting on some warm day of weather so that I can get out there and put 5 hours on the motor before I head south to Florida next month for the first 2 Elite Series events. And I've got all of that radar on the front of that damn thing that I don't like very well, but I have to play with it. I've got a picture on my phone I ought to send to you. I'll put it on my Instagram tomorrow, as a matter of fact, of a bunch of old flashers that I have that I'd love to see back on the front of a boat for sure.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
Well, I had it, John. And, in COVID in 2020, when we started our season, we started down in Florida, and I couldn't get depth finders. And I had a 2330 on the front of the boat, an old Lowrance flasher unit up there on the front of it. People are looking at me like, "Are you kidding?" Well, that's all I could get. I mean, it's what I had. So yeah, I went to Florida and came home with $20,000 with a flasher on the front of my boat. It was great.
That's
Well,
awesome.
maybe you should do that again.
Well, I'm really thinking about doing that. I just got new units put on the boat last week at High Tech Outdoors, and yeah, I wish that's all we had were a paper map and flasher again. It would it'd slow it back down a little bit for us old guys, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely be different. So, what is your favorite time of year to fish? Is it fall or is it spring? I like fall because I'm a grinder. I feel like I have a chance in the fall, put it that
Right.
way, against better than I can't go out here and catch when they're catching 25 pounds. I'm not going to do that probably, but I just feel like I can compete in the fall a little better.
Well, I like late winter, early spring because you've got a chance to catch the biggest fish of the year. And
That's true.
for whatever reason, John, I seem to understand what goes on in cold weather and cold water. And you're fishing for those better fish. You're still grinding. You may only get 5 to 7 bites, but you've got a chance to catch 3 5-pounders or 3 7-pounders or whatever, whatever lake you're on, whatever a big fish is, and you've got that opportunity to do that, and that can happen really quickly. You get a little light window open up, and you find those fish, and you make the right presentation, 3 or 4 casts. Well, you made hay pretty quick, and that's the best thing about fishing in the early season. I always felt like those events that were real grinders gave me an advantage in for my mental part of it. I felt like I had an advantage because I knew I wasn't going to quit to the very last cast, and if I knew I was only going to get 5 bites, I felt like I get them in the boat. So I really do like these cold water early season tournaments.
So in those early season tournaments, what is your strength? What do you think? What makes you like it better than the other times?
Well, I got to playing with a jerk bait way back in the first season I actually fished. It was the fall of 91, 92 invitationals. And I had come back from Sam Rayburn, and I had an old suspending rogue, a floating rogue that I'd made suspend tied on. And I drove all night from Twin Dykes to Ken Lake Marina all day, all night to get back for a one-day event. And I fished everything I knew to fish. I didn't get a chance to practice for the tournament home. Obviously, I was on Rayburn. And about 1 o'clock, I see that thing laying down there in a boat, old silver and black with a white belly rogue. And in about 15 minutes, I caught enough to take home a nice check. And the light bulb came on, John. It's just one of those quintessential moments in your life where, well, I think I can do this. And I ran for a long time and made a lot of money with that old jerkbait. Just being patient, using relatively light line, using 8-pound line, and basically having to know that what I needed to figure out was how long to make the pause and how hard or soft to make that jerk. And most of the time that pause would be somewhere between 5 and 8 to 10 seconds. And that's a long time, if you're standing up on the front of your boat. So I learned to sit my behind down, and I got a hell of a lot more patient and use that technique that I learned on that Sunday to win at Pickwick in 98 with a 15-second pause. And that's a long darn time to just be sitting there on point.
Yeah.
You count to 15 and then move it one more time. And it was an opportunity for me to fish in an area where there were other guys fishing the same technique, but I outfished them by being more patient. So that's why I like that cold water.
So when you get on that bite, are you typically fishing over deep water, or are you in the pockets, or like middle of the pockets, or how deep is your bait? Are the fish coming up? Like, because I struggle with that technique.
Well,
I really do. And I think mainly because I don't know if I'm in the right areas.
Well, it has to do with water clarity, John. It's a sight feeding technique. They've got to be able to see it. So the cleaner the water you have, the better off you are to pull those fish to the bait. It's the only technique in our tackle box that pulls fish to a bait. Think about it. You're skipping a jig under a dock, or you pitch to a willow tree, or you're winding a plug on a ledge. We're trying to go to those fish. But these fish at this time are generally main lake oriented, maybe the first or second point back in a pocket. And it's all about verticality. You want a bank that has a lot of verticality. And that can be different in different areas. At Grand Lake, where you are, boat might be sitting in 50 or 60 feet of water. There might be a little flat spot on the corner of that point down in 18 to 20. And most of our deep dive and jerk baits, you can get them 10 to 11 feet. So you're only 10 feet away from those fish. But you have to realize fish can see what I think 3 to 5 times further in the water than you and I can. So if I can see a bait 1 foot in the water, that means he can see from 3 to 5 feet away. And that's not just linear. That's all the way around. He can see 3 to 5 feet this way, and that way. So it's a bit like a big balloon. The cleaner the water, the bigger that balloon gets, and those fish can see that bait and come to it from distance. So water clarity is a big deal. Water temperature is a big deal. The colder the water, under 45 degrees, my pauses become very, very long. And then my jerks are really basically no more, John, than just tapping that rod tip so that bait just kind of gets off kilter. I want a bait that suspends in a head down motion, because that's the way when gizzard shad are dying and threadfin shad are dying, that's the way that they tend to be in the water column, and that's a non-natural presentation. So a bass is a predator, a coyote is a predator. All of these predators, when they see something that's non-natural in their environment, they know something's wrong and they go get it. So it's just about being patient. The cleaner the water, the better, and the colder it gets, the slower you fish.
27 minutes in, and we already got the juice, boys. I think we're doing pretty good.
Yeah. What's your favorite setup for the jerk bait? Go a little deeper.
Well, I use a loose casting rod. I'll either use a Pro TI rod that is a 6/8 rod, that is a medium action rod. It's a great topwater rod. I want a rod that has a fairly quick tip, but has a moderate action to it. I'm using 8-pound Seagar fluorocarbon in VizX, so I'm using light line. So cold water fish, they don't pull hard. And unless you're around cover, pulling them out of cover, you can get away with that 8-pound line pretty easy. Plus the 8-pound line gets the bait down an additional foot or so. So that's that much less distance that fish has to come to. I put Gamakatsu hooks on everything, number 4 round bends, because it's kind of a slashing bite. They'll come up there and they'll kind of nose it. A lot of times you'll get them in the nose, and when they turn, you've got them on the side of the face like this, and you can reel them in pretty easy. It's a real trial and error, and you have to be cognizant of what you're doing and have to change things constantly to get the right cadence for the day. And when you get the right cadence for the day, sometimes it's a twitch, pause. Sometimes it's just a pause, and which is a single twitch. It's up to you to experiment to get that right cadence. And when you find the right cadence, it does not take long to understand why you found the right cadence.
Has it been easier for you to narrow that down with forward-facing sonar, so you can see how, like, if you're seeing a fish, you can see them react?
You can, and that's the cool thing about forward-facing, is how much I've learned about fish behavior. But a lot of times when I see those fish on forward, I will actually kind of turn my motor once I've made the cast, lined it up, turn my trolling motor, my power pole move, and get it where I'm not looking with the radar. I know that fish is in the area, and it forces me to slow down. When I twitch that thing and I see that fish move a little bit, everything starts going faster in my life, and then I move it away from that fish a lot of times. But a lot of times when that fish sees that bait, addresses that bait, if you move it away from him, here he comes to get it. So it's a catch-22, done it both ways. been successful with it both ways, but just having that, figuring out that cadence is the big deal.
Yeah. I've heard that same thing about the forward facing and your adrenaline, you know,
Oh, sure.
like it's no different than when you're fishing a frog and you see a fish coming, you know, it's hard to leave it sit or slow down or keep the cadence the same or whatever.
Right.
You know, when you see that fish coming through the grass, I've heard that compared to that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times with a buzzbait, or I'm the world's worst buzzbait fisherman there ever was, because when I'm retrieving that buzzbait and I see him coming, first thing I do is I take it away from him. So when I buzzbait fish, you'd love it, John. I make a cast. I'm looking at the birds. I'm looking around. I'm looking for my next cast. When one eats it, I feel him. Then I set the hook and I catch that fish. If I see him come up and blow up on it, I'm going to miss him every time. Every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I get that. And, you know, I don't use braid on my buzz baits specifically for that, because it just slows me down a little bit, or slows my reaction down a little bit, you know, because there's no stretch.
Right.
You know, that's why I use that.
Oh yeah, but it makes it great because you can laugh at yourself when you miss one that would have just, you know, won you $100,000 or a $10,000 check, or qualify you for the next. You know, you're thinking, boy, I'm a big dummy. I missed that one. That one's going to be expensive, and they generally are when you miss them. You can't win tournaments losing fish.
How hard is it to laugh at yourself when you?
Oh, when you're a moron like I am, you get to laugh a lot. I promise.
I mean, I get mad when I miss one. I'm fishing against Mr. Chief's Bassmaster down there in the ABA tournament, and I just lost $42 to the guy. So
yeah, it's the same.
You know.
It's the same ratio and proportion. It's the same ratio. I promise.
That's funny. So you just you're part of this new what's it called? The I don't even know the name of it. ABP?
Yes.
And what's that stand for? And what's that
Association
about?
of Bass Professionals, I think that's what it is. And we're a sounding board for bass. We're trying to give them direction in when they're making some decisions. We want to give them the experiences that we have, so that when we make a decision going forward as a unilateral group, it's best for both parties. It's best for the anglers and it's best for the organization. Either, you know, on rules, to make rules more concise and make them just basically a yes or a no instead of having gray involved with them. You know, we'll say, well, why don't you think about it in these terms? And that takes all that ambiguity out of it. Or like the no information rules and or things like that. We want to be able to be very quick to say, here's what our opinion is, and maybe this will make it better when it goes to making decisions. You know, the big topic this year was entry fees, and we worked diligently and quickly and came to a consensus with all the anglers in the Elite Series this year on an entry fee reduction plan, and still have viable payouts so that we can make a good living doing this. So that's what it's for. It's not a union. It's not a unionization process. It is a sounding board to give bass the opportunity to ask us questions that going forward hopefully makes the organization stronger, and it's easier for the anglers to abide by a rule or work together on whatever topic it may be. So it's been a real neat experiment. I think we've been successful on both sides of the fence on moving things forward, and being able to have that conversation from the organization back to the anglers has been really great. So it's all positive, and I'm glad to be a part of it. You know, I'm 34 years in, guys, to my career. This will be the 34th season that I've fished, and I just felt like I wanted to try to leave it better than when I found it. And I'm going to fish a few more years if my body will hold out. But I just wanted to put those foundations there to where we can move forward and springboard the whole sport even further.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good deal, or at least it's a good concept, and I hope it works like everybody's hoping it'll work. And I think uh, if Bass will listen to and use you guys as a sounding board, I think it will.
Yeah, man, it's got to be a two-way conversation, John, and
That's
so
right.
far it has been. Um, you've got all of these. The hard part about this is you've got 104, 105 anglers in the Elite Series, and that's 105 different ways a business is run. So
Yeah.
they're all very similar, but nobody runs their business the same way. And
Are
that
you telling me you don't run your business like Matt Robertson runs his?
No, I don't run mine like Matt does. But even though we're Kentucky brothers, I think the world of Matt. I think he's way smarter than the country boy act is. I think he's a very
guaranteed.
intelligent, and he's one hell of a damn good fisherman. There's no two ways about that.
Mhm.
But you really find out that people think of things so differently. That what I've done all my time and all my career, there's many different ways people do things. Ben Milliken, he's got the video aspect in his, and that's a whole new revenue stream that most of our anglers are either haven't tapped into or started tapping into. Ben's light years away on that, and to hear him talk about revenue streams and things like that, you're kind of like, whew, this kid's pretty quick too. So. Anglers, as a general rule, John, is in your past experience, you may agree with me on this or disagree. Most of them are pretty good at high level thinking, problem solving. And so you put 105 guys there, you got 105 guys that think their way is the right way. But when you get it all whittled down and you get it good and concise, you can move an idea forward, and it hopefully it helps us all and it helps the organization too.
Yeah. So have you had anything other than the payout thing really since this? So how does it work?
Well, I mean, we've had rules that we've made more concise. We've had terminologies that were put into the angler agreement that we went in and said that does not work well in this particular term. We've had insurance issues that we've worked on. So it's not just payouts and running through the idle zone syndicate, where you have to be in the penalty box. We've even gotten to rules where if there are rule penalties that have to be involved, the severity of it. If I ran through a no wake zone and didn't see it, okay, like I said, I'm a moron. I didn't see that. Was I trying to get a competitive advantage? No, I wasn't. I didn't see the no wake zone. But once I did realize it, I went to Lisa Talman and said, Lisa, I ran that no wake zone. She said, because you came in, turned yourself in, you didn't see it. Well, this is the level for that. Well, if I was trying to beat you, John, to the best place on Grand Lake and I ran it, that's a different issue. I'm trying to get a competitive advantage, and that penalty needs to be a stiffer penalty. So we've gotten some level A, level B, level C, and level D penalties that go along with that. So we haven't had that structure before. So it's been lots of little small things that hopefully will build into stronger rules and easier officiating for the tournament directors to keep the tournament moving forward.
Sounds good. Sounds like a good plan.
It's not easy. It's not easy to hear another angler bitching and moaning about this, that, or the other thing, and you have to really almost work like a judge in your own mind. Think, well, does he have a good point, or is this point a better point? Everybody has an equal opportunity with the 6 reps that we have to get their opinion heard. So moving forward, it should be good. So
if there is a big issue or how did the payout thing work? Because I think we all knew that what originally came out would not be by the time the season rolled around. At least I did. I told these guys on the show that it would change before the season started. So how does something like that work? Do you give some input and then Bass comes back with maybe some options? Is there any voting? Because I've heard so many different things, so I don't know how you all come to decide. How that payout actually ended up. Was there
Well,
like a couple?
we offered it up to our anglers to come up with proposals. How a zero entry fee would have worked, or a 5,000 or a 10,000. We actually had about 8 or 10 different proposals with different values of entry fee money and different payouts. And so we basically kind of put that in like a college basketball bracket, the championship bracket. And so these two voted against each. We voted for these two here, and the number one won. So it moved on to the semifinals. And we did that until we moved that in, and we had 2 options that we voted for. And then we came to the conclusion what the majority of the group was. And what was interesting about that, John, was we knew what the true numbers of the vote were. We knew that 62 people voted here and 41 people voted there, and that made your 103, 104 right there. We knew what the averages were, so we never got to a 52 to 50 or a 53 to 51. We never got any of that. We saw what the true numbers were, so we were able to take that, knowing that the majority of the constituency wanted this or that, and we whittled it down to what we ended up with, which is it helped the payouts a lot. Bass is gracious enough to put X amount of money in our payouts, and the rest of it had to come from somewhere. I think a lot of our anglers were a little bit disillusioned, thinking that with no entry fees, we were still going to pay for the fish for the same payouts that we fished for when we were paying $45,000 each in there. So where's that money going to come from? And Bass stayed firm with the money that they were going to give us to fish for, and we had to come up with a little more. So it's viable. I think it's viable. You're still fishing for $100,000 for first place. 50th place is $5,500. So we're making a little more money on the long run with expenses being decreased. So there's some other challenges in there, John, with that. But everybody kind of calmed down after we did the vote. And we did that in a relatively expedited time. We did that in basically 10 days to maybe 2 weeks. We had it whittled down, and my phone rang. Oh,
Yeah, I'm sure.
I had to basically turn it off at night just to go to bed. We had lots of in-depth discussions, and I think as a group, the anglers will be a lot closer because of this. So because we've all had some heated discussions and some very frank discussions about things, and it seems like now, once we got through all of that emotion part of it, I think we're on a better track. I think it'll be easier in competition when you pull in an area, because you've had a chance to talk to everybody on different levels about things. So I think it's a good thing for everybody.
Yeah, I think it can be or will be. We'll see. But I think it will be. It's a different thing when they wave the green flag and everybody starts going. So that's but it's a good thing. I do think and I think it's great that you have a diverse group of veterans and rookies, and
sure,
people like Ben, Alex, Weatherell. Those are. I think that's good. I think that's really good that you have those guys included.
Well, everybody's not at the same place in their career that I am.
Right.
Alex Weatherall, he's a 2-year guy. He comes in with wonderful creative ideas. And then you got the old fart being me over here going, that's a really good way to think about it. Then you've got John Cruz in there, who's a good veteran, and Drew Benton, who has been around several years. And then you got the Texan Lee Livesey, who's just down to earth, no, that doesn't work. And yes, this does work, with 6 or 7 years of experience. And then you got Ben Milliken, who's also basic rookie in there too. So it's from over here to over here. And when we all get in a room together or on a Zoom call, it's amazing how fast the conversations go, and in different directions. and in great positivity. Each one of the reps brings something totally different to the table, and the conversations have been really, really good conversations.
Well, that's good to hear, and I'm glad you're all doing it, because as a fan, the three of us, and I think we can speak for the majority of fans. We just want to have a great year this year, where the guys get back to fishing, right, and not something is up every tournament and that we're talking about, or that we as a podcast are trying to avoid, and because we're trying to not get in. We just want to talk fishing and life stuff is what we do on this podcast, and it was hard to do last year to not talk about. In fact, we didn't really, because Kyle would open the can of worms, and then I would go off a 20-minute tangent about something. So we're just hoping for a little more positivity this year. We want to get back to fishing and watching our heroes fish and catch fish and learning. We want to get back to learning. Yeah.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you. Look at that. How about that?
Yes,
no
sir.
cap.
So let's get back to fishing a little bit. So what is your favorite venue or your favorite place to go?
Oh, I don't know, John. I mean, I do love Little Lake Martin. It's a great place. I've had great tournaments on places that I've never been to before. Then I've had tournaments that I've been so many times that I couldn't catch a damn cold. The Potomac River, I've made one check out of all the Potomac River tournament and caught fish every darn time. It's just a challenging place. The Northeast is great. All the lakes up there in the Northeast are special. If you're planning on a vacation and got a week to go somewhere, go up there in late August, early September, and just go nuts with 50 to 100 fish catches, a day. Texas has got great lakes. You all right there, believe it or not, John, one of the places I really like to come and fish, and it's a tough fishery, is the ditch. The Arkansas River up there in Oklahoma at Muskogee. Mm-hmm. It's a challenging place to fish. Very difficult place to fish, but I like coming there. Grand's a beautiful place. I don't know. It's just, the California Delta was one of those places that I didn't do well there, but I went up the road to Clear Lake and I got to check there every time I've been there. Sometimes you just go to places and you're just comfortable. And the other times you go there and you're kind of like, damn, tournament's over and I still couldn't catch one with both hands. Okeechobee's one of those places I don't have a lot of love for either. And that's my second tournament of the year coming up. But the first one's the St. Johns River. For some reason, I get along with that place really, really well. Been a threat to win several of those tournaments there, and made money almost every time I've been there. Don't know why that I'm so comfortable there. But that is the first place that I ever fished a professional event in 1987. So I've been there numerous times. I don't know. I like places like Table Rock because you can catch all three species, bull shoals, Table Rock. We had a bull shoals tournament about 10 years ago that was as good an event as we had at Bass in
it was a great event.
That was an unbelievable tournament. How many fish got caught there?
Brandon won that, I think.
Yep, Polnick won that and had to go to the hospital and get a hook out of his hand and got back on the water and finished a limit or cold or whatever he did. And he beat us all pretty handily. But the top 10 guys, I made the top 10 in that one. The third day, I had one of the biggest sacks of the tournament. And I know, John, that I landed 20 3.5 to 4 pounders that day. It was incredible. And the day before, probably caught 100 the day before. Had no idea that bull shoals had gotten that good. Our fisheries are getting better. Kentucky Lake is one we can talk about. I'm actually fishing the Open here this year. I thought our lake was going to be done with the invasion of Asian carp and the fall of the population of fish and all that went on there. But man, it's made a hell of a rebound. It's taken a 5-pound average here to win. Now, most of that because of the radar, but it's taken a 4 to 5 pound average in every tournament going. There was a tournament last weekend. This one kid, Clint Knight, that won the Bassmaster team event. Clint has got it figured out. Doggone, he's 22 to 25 every time he goes. Had 26 something here this last weekend when it was so damn cold. It's great to see that the fisheries are coming back, and everything oscillates, goes up and down, but that all goes back to good management, like Texas and Missouri have done by putting larger size limits on there and slot limits in places. And we've got a lot of great places to fish.
What are you looking forward to on the schedule?
When it's over? No. You know what the hardest part of my job is, guys? The hardest part of my job is 4 miles. It's the 4 miles it is from sitting right here in my bedroom at our house to I-24. It takes 4 miles, and it takes me about 4 days from just being complacent or not wanting to go or procrastinating, whatever, to get from where I'm sitting right here to get to the interstate. Because I don't want to leave my family, my wife and the kids and the dog and everybody to get back on the road and go to work. But once I get on that 4 miles, John, I'm back in the game. It's business as usual. What I'm looking forward to this year on the schedule, St. John's is going to be good. Florida can be good. It's so tough to get down there that early because weather's going to be it's going to get cold, and it's going to really make it tough, hardened fishing. And I think the Texas events are good. The Sabine River's a great place to fish. You don't catch giants, but it takes a lot of thought and a lot of preparation to put together a plan to do well there. So that's always a fun place to go. Fork, Fork's not my favorite place, but I've had some great tournaments there in the last 3 or 4 years. The one that I'm most excited about is the Pascatank River over in the Albemarle Sound. It's been years since bass has been there, and the one tournament that we had there, there were lots of boats that got lost back in the 70s, and weather related and big waves, but they've got some darn big fish there, guys. So I look for that one. If the weather is good there, that one's going to set some records, I think. I'm trying to think of where else we're going. We don't have that northeastern swing, but we're going to Lake St. Clair. 100 fish days again. And then we finish up the season there with the Mississippi River, which is a beautiful fishery. And that's a tough place to fish, John, because everybody catches 2.5 pounders. Yeah. Everybody catches 5 that weigh 12.5 pounds. Doesn't get you paid. But a 2 pound, 12 ounce average gets you paid, and a 3 pound average, you win the tournament. So everybody's going to be squashed in there. That's always a unique place to fish because you catch so darn many fish there in so many different ways. So the Pascatank, because I've never been there, and probably St. John's are the two I'm looking most forward to.
Yeah, we've heard that Pascatank, I guess that's how you say it. We've heard that a few times from the guests. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to that event.
Yep, it's always good to go somewhere new.
Yeah,
just somewhere new and different. And I wish we would make some changes of our system. I would love to see the Classic moved back to the summer to get all the kids from school and all the families to come. I think we would have bigger attendance. I think the tournament would be a tougher event to try to win. I would like to see us have some tournaments where we could throw a big plug again. Kentucky Lake Ledge tournaments, Gunnerville Ledge tournament. I would like to see those changes just so that we could throw the tackle industry a bone, because so many people love the tournaments, all tournaments. And those trends sell lures, they sell baits, they sell rods and reels and line and things like that. So if we could get a more diverse schedule, I think we would see different techniques win tournaments at different times of the year, and you'd see lure sales go to become a lot more than just a jig head minnow and a shad body. Nobody makes any money doing that. So I would love to see that come back and see some more generalized fishing, which may take us fishing in the fall where a crankbait becomes a very thing. So
maybe that's something the ABP can suggest or push through or whatever. I know I fought for that all the time, when I was there, because we would sit in meetings and somebody would ask the question, what can we do to make this even bigger? And my answer was always exactly that. Get back to the summer fishing where we had 1,000 kids around a pond in the middle of because they weren't in school.
right.
1,000 kids, and all the presidents had to be there to wrangle those kids back in the day when I was still a president. So I'm with you there. I think that would be a huge positive move there, and I don't know why we couldn't do that. But
Well, and we have certain venues that are more likely to have events go there just because of the economics of what goes on to put these tournaments on. But instead of having Kentucky Lake 6 years in a row on a schedule in June, come in March.
yeah,
I'm in October. Move that around to show the different personalities of these bodies of water. And that way we don't get real static on where things get won and what they get won on and where they get won. I'd love to see a shakeup of some of the places, I'm really glad that we're leaving the St. Lawrence alone this year. I have a concern as a person that is a biologist by trade. Those 5 and 6 pound smallmouth up there, they're dinosaurs. They're 15, 18, 20, 22 years old. And they don't need that constant stress on their bodies being run up and down that river 80, 90, 120 miles. They don't need that. Their survival rates go down. So let's take a chill pill on some of these places and let's do some different things.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. That'd be awesome. What you got, Kyle? I can see it in your eye. You got something.
Well, just commenting from earlier, you asked him what his favorite lake was. I thought it was hilarious. He pretty much named every lake in the country.
See?
Well, he just likes fishing. That's just plain and simple.
Yeah.
Something kind of a little interesting. We've asked some guys this in the past, and I just find it really interesting to hear your perspective. What's one new technique that you think you need to work on or improve in? And what's an old technique that maybe one of those old school things that you're like, yeah, I maybe need to brush up on that, or, what's something that maybe you want to just take back and start using a little bit more and put some more time in with?
Well, like I mentioned before, I need all the buzzbait help I can get. I mean, it's just the weakest link for me. Two things that have really changed the way I fish. One is a Strike King Rage Crawl. I very seldom fish a jig anymore because of that. That Rage Crawl gives me the chance to catch keeper size fish, and it gives me a chance to catch great old big fish. I've caught fish to 10 pounds on a Rage Crawl. But it has taken away how often that I fish a jig and trailer combination anymore. Where I used to fish a jig all the time, now I go through 2,000 Rage Crawls in a year. I should be a little more open-minded about that. But as you all know, it takes a little more effort to retrieve that jig, and my arms and my elbows and wrists, they're shot. And having that extra little bit of weight lifting that jig up, by the end of the season, I can really tell the difference. I was a high school and college tennis player, and those overuse injuries that I did there don't pair well with a rod and reel. So I should fish a jig more than I do. The other thing that I have gotten into that kind of goes back to what you were talking about, Kyle, kind of some really old school in my thought process are square bills. And I mean, a 1.5 is a great bait, but how many of you guys have thrown an 8.0 or a 4.0, a big square bill? I have some baits that a guy in your all's region over there, Jim Gowling, that used to be the designer of the fat-free shads. I've got some square bills that Jim handmade for me that are giant, and I have busted them good on the Arkansas River with those old big baits. Fishing that bigger square bill bait limits the amount of bites you get, but when one eats it, he's that darn far between the eyes. He's a big old fish. So that when you can go to that mentality, and my good friend and my idol of all times, Rick Clunn, has always fished that square bill to perfection. And when it all lines up and he gets 5 of those big bites, you know, he's even at 77 years old, he's still a threat to win. That is a winning technique when it can line up. Glide baits are a new one that I need to spend some time with. I've had some success with glide baits. I don't like throwing one that's $150. I can say that, but if for fear of losing it or line breaking or whatever. But that's a whole new concept, high risk, high reward kind of deal, and that needs to be imposed into my fishing there. I have some ideas about it on what kind of glide baits I'm going to bring into the fold this year, and have got those all ready to go. So if you become real static and you become an expert in everything that you're doing, well, you're not going to grow. And I think it's really good to push yourself, even with the years of experience that I have, to do something different. And it's great to find something that you really like to do that you can enjoy. It fires me up even that much more to go fishing. So yeah, I play with a lot of different things, and that those are probably the things I really need to make some changes on.
That's cool, because that's one thing I think about pretty much every winter is just I get burned out a little bit throwing the same thing over and over again. Yeah. I'm constantly thinking to myself, I'm still young. I've still got a lot of time left, I hope. And, I constantly think, what's the next bait that I really need to try to take to the KG&E Lake over by Parsons and just try to catch all I can catch with it,
Sure.
So it's just interesting to hear guys' opinions. I would be crazy if I didn't ask you this. So you talked about the square bill and stuff. Do you get baits custom painted, and do you happen to use a guy named, I think his last name's Russell. Bag 5 Baits.
Yep. Mike lives about 5 miles from my lake house, and Mike has been painting my baits for probably close to 15 years. And he's the best guy I've ever used. His knowledge of how to blend colors and shading to make paint do different things, and the wide variety of paint that he uses is remarkable. So much so that he started working for a major bait company. And
that's what I heard, and I wondered.
He was working for a major bait company, and they started giving him kind of a hard time on contractual obligations and things like that. And when that contract was up, I immediately went to the higher ups at Strike King, and I said, we're fools if we don't hire this man. And they did, and he has come through with flying colors and resurrected all of our new colors, and now he's on product development. And Mike and I worked very diligently on the new Hardliner 57 that we've got coming out.
Cool.
That 57 it's a flat-sided bait that designates 5 to 7 feet, what the 57 means. And it is the coolest flat-sided bait I've ever been around. Mike figured something else out about it, and when he incorporated in the bait, it came alive. So we're coming next with a 35 and then a 79. And we've got all kinds of ideas that Mike's now a part of in the pipeline on product development. So he's a great fisherman. I fished with him several times, and he's a really good fisherman. And to be able to do what he does with paint, to make things more lively, one of the things and one of the trends that he's been hitting me on the head with is, our bodies of water are getting clearer. They're cleaner. Our reservoir, we're not building any new reservoirs, so we don't have a lot of reservoirs that stay muddy all the time. Everything is cleaner than it used to be. And crankbaits that are translucent, he's been hitting me on the head for about 15 years. He's like, dude, you need to get rid of that chartreuse and black, that's such a good bait when it's dirty. There's times that a bait you can see through will produce even more. And, finally, like I said, guys, I'm a moron. I'm finally starting to listen to him. And he's right. He's absolutely right. So we've got some new colors in the KVD series. We've got the Crossum baits, new additions of colors of crawdad color baits in the line this year. And when we finally get those hardliners out, I think we're going to have some happy guys that love to whine a plug.
Is he? Does he still paint on the side at all, or is he allowed to?
Yes, he is. He does. He gets to paint on the side. It's kind of a second a job for him, but his number one position is product development and color development for Strike King, and he gets to do that. Gets to do his bag 5 stuff in between. And in a couple of weeks, we'll be going to the East Tennessee show. If you ever get a chance to go to the East Tennessee fishing show in the Knoxville area, it's the most amazing group of painters and handmade crankbait building guys in the world. It's
cool.
I do not go there with a credit card. That's all I can tell you. I go in with a $20 bill so I can get lunch, and I walk around and just marvel at all the artwork that's in there. And I'll be there for a couple of days here on the 23rd and 24th of January in Mike's booth, and telling these same stories about what he's done. I'd love to know how much money I've won with one of Mike's hand painted baits. I mean, it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I found him a handful of years ago. I was looking for somebody to paint some wiggle. I got a few pre-Rapala wiggle warts.
Right.
And I was looking for somebody I'm colorblind. So, but I can tell.
Is that why you're wearing a pink hat?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Polka dots on it. I can still see somebody that can paint with class online, and I found bag 5, and I'm glad I did, because one of the crankbaits that he painted for me, I had to nickname 657 because it was the first fish I caught on it was a giant. So,
what color is that, Kyle?
It's like a brown and purple.
Okay.
He thinks. He
called it something. I've got a couple that are really popular, like the brown and purple one, and the army green, I think, was the other color he painted for me. I think that's what he called it. So this one is brown and purple, fellas. I promise it is. I'm not lying.
Well, another one of our famous fishermen, God rest his soul, was colorblind too. Aaron Martins was colorblind.
Really?
And Leslie would actually have to write down the color and bag the baits for him of his little robo worms and different things like that. He got to where he could tell, but Aaron was basically colorblind too.
Yeah,
so,
that was my mom and dad's job when I was a younger kid, was or the color on the package, green pumpkin, it had to be like, okay, this is a purple power bait worm. This isn't some blue fleck or whatever. If it was an oddball color, they would have to write specifically what it was on the package for me. So,
did they do that for your clothes when you went to grade school too, on the inside, so you didn't get beat up at school?
They were every day. They were laid out on the bed. My mom.
Garanimals. Just math.
Lots
They
of
didn't even
plain colored shirts.
They didn't even have animals, Mark, when Kyle was a kid.
Yeah, I
That-
have
that's
that
probably
figure
true.
talking
That's probably true. Well, he's a good sport.
You-
First time I've
you
ever
don't-
talked to, and I'm riding him like a pony. So there you go.
You don't even know what a animal is, do you, Kyle?
I have no idea.
Sears, baby, Sears. You could get them at Sears.
So back in the day,
Or tough skins. Do you know what tough skins are?
I'm good there. Yeah, we're good.
so back in the day, our parents, Mark's and Danny's and mine, would go to Sears, and it was real easy to match clothes because you'd pick out a shirt that had a zebra tag on it, and you'd pick up pants that had a zebra tag on it, and you matched the two. You knew that outfit matched. Lion shirt, lion pants. Tiger shirt, tiger pants.
Well, why did they ever get away from that idea now? I mean, I'm a colorblind dad that shops for a 3-year-old daughter once in a while.
I don't know. It was
That sounds
genius.
great.
It was genius.
It is genius. That sounds outstanding.
Yep.
So translucent. So that means now I have to go somewhere with a credit card because all I have is red, green, chartreuse and black back, and shad color is all I've got in my crankbaits.
I gotta grab my wiggle wart box and just. You guys got me second guessing myself.
Well, we
That's-
came out
oh,
with
dear.
a crankbait called a gravel
Oh,
dog.
we've
last
gotten
year,
two.
and we've got several of those translucent colors, and my gosh, the bass that I've caught on my television show with it, just a great bait. And I never had used that many translucent baits before, but it's definitely a trend.
So is the bait that you're talking about the 50? What was it?
57, the hardliner 57.
Hardliner 57. Is that similar to a Fritz Side 5 or something like that?
No, they're in silhouette. It's a shallow diving crankbait, flat crankbait, but the action of the two baits are totally different. Mike had his hand on that Fritz Side bait too on design, so we built something that's totally different. Everybody think that a flat-sided bait is a cold water bait exclusively, and it does great in cold water. We designed this one, where when you're retrieving it slow in that cold water, it's got a good roll to it. And the faster you retrieve it in warm water, the tighter the wiggle gets. Almost like when you're retrieving a bladed jig fast, that retrieve, you feel that bait, real high sound pitch to it. This crankbait's the same way. So it's going to be fantastic in the fall, like we talked about earlier, that grinding kind of deal. And this bait will come through cover pretty well too. Not all flat side baits will be able to bounce through cover very well, but this one comes through cover pretty well.
I will definitely have to try that one because I have caught a ton of fish the last few years on that Fritz Side. I mean, a ton. And I love it. And I just love the way it works and comes through. But if this one is similar, but I seem to catch more fish on the Fritz Side earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are you doing?
Trying to find the camera on the laptop.
Well, let's see this color, Kyle. Let's see this color.
Okay, okay.
You're good.
So I know it's kind of dark. I'll try and
no, I see, you can see the
He's
purple
getting
right
text.
there. You've got that purple underside, that good brown strong back, and that kind of a khaki looking bill under there. Yeah.
Bag 5, so he signs them on the tail there
Yep.
towards the back, right in there. So that's that 657, what I call the 657. And then this is the other one that he called like the Army Green.
Yeah, green gourd.
Pretty orange on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe the conversation I had, he said, if you'll notice, it's similar to almost like he kind of looked at like the Eakins jigs that were really good fish catchers for a long time. And
Right.
I think he kind of modeled these crankbait colors after those.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's been a few years since I've gotten a chance to talk to him, but even somebody as busy as he was, he took time to talk to me on the phone and answered questions that I had, and
Sure.
he did a great job.
Oh,
Since
he's
then,
fantastic.
we've got some guys that live around here that do a really, really awesome job. We're going to have a chance to see him here in a couple weeks at the Albert's Boat Show, but good dude, and I'm happy for him. I'm glad that somebody that does a job kind of like this was able to use it and do what they love. Do it as a career. I think is really cool.
Yeah, well, he's the best I've ever used, and I'll come to him with an idea that I want this, I want that, I want a hint of that, I want it to shade a specific way. And Kyle, I'll be honest with you, he's not missed one time, not one time when I've told him how I want it over the phone, because he's a fisherman and a very talented fisherman at that. So he knows what I want, why I want it, and he knows how to make a bait really, really look natural in the water. So, yeah, I have a lot of fun with him. I give him a hard time, never nice to him. I ride him, give him a hard time. And, the good thing is the boat ramp I use at the lake, his house is right there. So he sees my boat truck coming and going all the time. He's like, well, why don't you ever stop and pick me up? I said, because you're busy painting baits. That's what you do for a living. I'm going fishing. So he'll throw new stuff for me in the boat, and we do get to fish a little bit, but boy, it's amazing to have the confidence that it gives a tournament angler to have something that the rest of the field doesn't have. It's incredible. Do you convert that into wins or winning money or catching more fish? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I can remember a Dardanelle tournament that I finished in the top 5 in, and I took a 1.5 and painted a very, very mistaken, ugly color, and nobody else had them, and I wiped them out right behind people. Had an opportunity to win that event. So, I think it really helps your fishing to have some of these colors. And geographically, there are certain lakes that certain colors do better on. And, years ago, I remember Truman Reservoir, a red plastic worm was always a real go-getter there. Kentucky Lake, it's always been something with blue in it or plum. Geographically, when you figure something out like that, you can get something custom painted, and you're the only one that's got it, and it makes a difference.
How much percentage do you think fishing is in between your ears?
I think it's I think it's the major percentage, Kyle. I think it's all about decision making. A lot of it has to do with timing, how you make those decisions. You're not going to catch them all. You're not going to catch every fish that you get on the line, and you're going to reach down there and you're going to touch some of them. They're going to come off in your hands, and it's going to cost you winning or losing the tournament. And then that's when I think the strength of the mental capability really comes in. One of the tournaments I won on bass was at West Point Reservoir in 2005, when I just was coming back from my first tournament from having been sidelined for 90 days with meningitis. I almost died in Guntersville. And the second day of that tournament, I lost the first 15 pounds of fish that I had on. And I had this ultimate calm about me. I told my wife, I told Don, I said, I'm going to win this event before I even got there. I just felt like the planets were lining up, and all of those factors lined up such that in the next 3 hours after I lost that first 15 pounds, I went and caught me a 15-pound bag and blew the tournament wide open that day. But my partner, he was like, dude, you haven't even cussed. You haven't said an ugly word. You haven't gotten down on yourself. I said, it'll come. Watch, it'll come. And then when it came pretty quick. And he was like, that's amazing. And you learn those things about yourself as an angler the more you're in those situations. And conversations with Rick Clunn and conversations with Larry Nixon, you take a lot away from what they say, and you can implement it into your game. It makes you a stronger fisherman. So, positivity is a big part of it. I love it when I see the guy lose the first one down the bank from me. He lays on the back of the deck and he's crying, "Oh my God." I go, "Well, I've got you beat. I got you beat.
Mhm.
You're still thinking about that, and I'm moving on." So, but our young guys in the sport right now are such credible, capable anglers, and that has all come from college fishing. I think it's up to almost 50% of the anglers that are in the Elite Series. It may even be higher, closer to 60% now, are former college anglers. And there's nothing in this world that prepares an angler more for competition than good, strong competition, but fishing all over the country like these college kids do. I help the Murray State kids. I sponsor the Murray State team with monies to help them travel. But I spend a lot of time fishing with them and talking to them at their meetings and stuff about this very thing. They want to know technique, and all I want to know is about how the hell did you catch them with the radar. I'm trying to learn it from them as well. But they're really get in there and probe. What do you do when you lose this one, or what do you do when you break down, or what do you do when another angler comes in your area? They want to know those questions too. So it's pretty neat.
Staying headstrong is it's not easy, like you said.
No.
How was it winning Dardanelle in 2009 out of an aluminum boat with a 90 horse motor on it, with Kevin Van Dam on your heels?
Oh, it was great. It was great. It was funny. The last day I caught a strong 16-pound bag, 16-pound bag that day, and Kevin pulled up to the. He says, "What you got, Mark?" And I said, "Oh, I got 16." And he said, "Well, I got 19." And I said, "Well, good for you. That means you've got 21, and I had a 6-pound lead on you, and I'm going to win by a pound." And I devastated him with that real quick. So that was a unique event. The way it all played together. And I had heard a rumor years ago about the third day when we were canceled that day, that a local guy put rocks under that culvert to keep me out of there. And that came true. I verified that when a friend of mine went to Dardanelle, and I said, "Well, go back there where I caught him. You can put in off the bank." And he met a guy back there, and he said, "Yeah, how'd you get your bass? But how'd you get your skeeter in here?" He said, "Well, I put it off the bank. I got a friend that won a tournament here." And he said, "Well, tell him I was the guy that put the rocks in there that made it hard for me to get in there." Like, "Oh, thank you very much." That little 17-foot G3 with a 90, that's what my son and I duck hunt out of now. I've still got the boat, and we still use it, and I still fish out of it. And I've probably had at least 6 top 10s in tournaments. I used to fish the PAA events out of that a lot, and had several top 10 events in that boat too. So a lot of memories, a lot of fun, and it just got you back to your roots when you went fishing in that little aluminum boat like you did when you were a kid, and it was fun.
I can still hear Tommy Sanders talking about you as you're running down the lake and trying to get through that culvert and all that. And yeah, pretty neat. And catching them shallow like you were catching, or fairly shallow, it looked shallow anyways, flipping that jig, and come to Big Hill. Come to Big Hill in the spring.
I would love to. Would love to.
The jig there pretty easily too. So,
well, you get your favorite places, you get your favorite ways to fish, and the stories that you can tell after as long as I've done it. I spend a lot of time watching YouTube, and I go back on YouTube and I pull up a guy by the name of Lynn Dollar, and he has all the old Bassmasters back into the early 80s. From 85 to 2005. He's got Bob Cobb and the Bassmasters on there. And I watch a lot of those because I lived through a lot of that. And I still use that as a point of reference for seasonal pattern and how a lake fishes and the way it played out and things like that. I'm not looking for fishing. I'm just looking for overall knowledge, not looking for spots. But I spend a lot of time watching those old things. And I see a skeeting kid that had real dark hair at one time on there every now and then. But those are always fun to go back and watch.
So you've been with Skeeter and Yamaha a long time.
Yeah, Yamaha since 2001 and Skeeter since 2003. Strike King since 2004 and Lose for about 15 years. And my sponsorship base has not changed a lot over the years, John, for whatever reason. And when my wife was sick and she was diagnosed with cancer, I had to lay off the tour for 2 years. And those companies that just mentioned there with several others kept me on salary. And I didn't fish a national event for 2 years. So I owe a whole lot of gratitude to those companies, particularly Yamaha and Skeeter, like you see me wearing now, just on the personal relationships that I'd built with the folks in charge there. And those are things that just don't happen in this world. And I'm grateful for what they did for me and my family and my kids. And so when the split happened in 18, there was no doubt in my mind where I was going to stay, because those companies pay me to get exposure for them at Bassmasters. And that's why I stayed where I did. And to this day, I still have a lot of gratitude for that, for all those people that I work with.
Yep. Dennis Buck wants to know what your all-time favorite lure is.
It's a spinnerbait. I love a spinnerbait. You can catch a fish on the surface with a spinnerbait. You can catch a fish 30 feet down on a spinnerbait. For whatever reason, a spinnerbait catches bigger than average fish. And it caught my biggest fish that I ever caught. I caught a 13.9 during the Megabucks tournament years ago, and it came on a spinnerbait. My second biggest fish I caught 2 days prior to that on the same body of water, and it was an 11-pounder on a spinnerbait. Biggest fish I ever caught on Kentucky Lakes, a 9 1/4, and it came on a spinnerbait. So it's pretty easy to see that I like to throw that old spinnerbait. Is
that your percentage wise? Do you catch most of your fish on a spinnerbait, or?
No, John. I'm a jack of all trades, whether it's 6-pound line or 60-pound line. I'm not opposed to that. But when I need to catch a big one in a pre-spawn period, yeah, I'm gonna catch it on a spinnerbait probably. Yeah. They just seem to eat that bait so much better. That big fish I'm talking about, a 5, 6, 7-pound fish eats that bait better than anything else when the water's in that 48 to 55 degree range. Spinnerbait is just, it reigns supreme. And that's the reason that I was so slow to get on the bladed jig kick. So slow, because I know what it catches them on a spinnerbait. We were at Lake Fork this year, John, and it was cold the first day, and the fish had moved shallow. Big front came through, and it's actually spitting sleet. It's sleeting. And eons ago, Clun told me, he says, if it's snowing, pick up a spinnerbait. I'm pitching down the bank with my jig like I'd caught him the day before. Starts snowing. I reached down there in the first cast with a spinnerbait. I caught a 6-7, and the next cast I caught a 4-11. Quit sleeting. I quit throwing a spinnerbait. So that spinnerbait just catches big ones.
Is there a certain willow leaf or Colorado blade, or in the different temperatures? Like, when do you go from one to the other?
Well, there is, and a lot of that's by feel and watercolor and water temperature. It seems like a number 4 Colorado with a number 6 Colorado in that early spring, where you've got that slower blade turning that creates a lot of throb. And I always put a big ribbon tail trailer on my spinnerbait to make it even that much bigger. Those big Colorado blades catch bigger fish. Then there are places where a Colorado blade is not as efficient, like in Okeechobee or any of your lakes with a lot of vegetation, where that Colorado willow is a better combination. And I throw a lot of number 6s and number 7 willow blades. I don't catch a lot of fish on them, but when you catch one, it's the right one. So there's times for all of it, and it's just like having a good toolkit. I spent today rearranging my blade box. I've been spending, 3 to 5 to 7 hours a day the last couple of months, working in my tackle, getting it all organized for this year. And today was the day for spinnerbait blades. And I know that I've got to go buy me some more number 4s, number 5, and number 6 Colorados. And I found a plethora of willow blades, so I'm in good shape on those.
And what size, what's your setup? What size line typically, and, average, I guess?
It's typically 17 to 20 plus pounds. I am loving that score, Danny. That is fantastic. Go Cats. 17 to 20.
1 minute. 1 minute
is
to go.
what I generally use. I'm a big fan of ripping a spinnerbait in the fall, fishing it on top as fast as I can, running windy points. And my setup there is totally different. It's still 20-pound line, but sometimes it's 20-pound mono on a cranking rod, especially when I'm around those big smallmouth, or I'm around big Kentuckys, or I'm getting big largemouth on that technique. So it varies from time to time, but it's generally big line.
Very interesting. I know I need to throw a spinnerbait more.
They still catch them. I mean, everybody likes a bladed jig, and it catches a lot of fish too. But I just have not caught that better grade. I catch a lot of 2 to 4 pound fish on a bladed jig. But that spinnerbait, it's 4 to 6 pound fish. It gets a lot of those on that. So, but I just don't get as many bites on a spinnerbait like I used to. Get more bites on that bladed jig, but they're not as big for some reason.
Are you a fast fisherman? Do you go down when you're going down a bank throwing a spinnerbait, are you moving pretty quick, or are you picking apart every laydown and running by every rock?
Well, spinnerbait is great to cover water. I am very particular about trying to figure out what angle I can keep the bait in the strike zone the longest. A big laydown tree there. And the same with a square bill on a laydown tree. I may make 15, 20, 25 casts at one tree. I remember a tournament at West Point where I came up on a laydown tree and I made 40 casts and I caught a 4-pounder. About noon that day, I sat down, ate a sandwich, stood up, made 40 more casts, and I caught another 4-pounder out of that tree. So if I really feel like there's a good possibility that there's a fish there, I'm going to play cat and mouse with that fish, particularly if it's a tree that's kind of bushy or it's got a good butt section of that tree. I'm going to retrieve that bait many, many times because that fish may not be catchable when you get there. In about 5 or 6 presentations, that fish may move out a little bit and then become more catchable. And then as you make more retrieves down that tree, he gets aggravated and gets up in the water column a little higher, then he becomes catchable. And it's hard sometimes to take that big size 10 off that trolling motor and be that efficient and make that many casts, invest that time there. But the dividends can be really, really good when you do that. So but with a spinnerbait, I'm generally moving pretty quick until I find something I think I'm going to catch one on.
Yeah, that's that fishing until you believe that there's not a fish there is Mike Blaha. I can remember this piece of advice that he gave me when it was like my second tournament. It was like my second tournament ever fishing as a non-boater. I was young, didn't even know what this bass fishing was. And Mike, I was fishing behind Mike, and he was fishing this beaver dam. And he must have thrown in there 50 times. And I finally asked him, I'm like, and he caught a fish. And I asked him that question. I said, how do you know? And his answer was, you throw in there in different angles and throw in there until you are absolutely positive there's not a fish there.
Sure.
And then you throw one more time.
Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
what he said. And I've never forgot that.
It's a hard thing to do, John, to do that, but sometimes it just dictates you doing that on a lake that's got a lot of pressure, or extreme weather conditions, like a major front, big high bluebird sky day, and you just have to make multiple presentations there. Hard to do, but those are the tournaments that I seem to do well in. Is when you're only going to get 5, 6, 7 bites a day. And those are the tournaments that I've won or had great finishes in just by being efficient.
Right. I had a question about the schedule. I know you're not a super fan of the radar, as you call it, but the schedule supposedly is supposed to help that. Do you think it will? Like the contrast between the going certain places early and different times of the year this year?
Yeah, I think this schedule is laying out to be more of a shallow water tournament anglers schedule. Though I don't care what place you go to now, the radar is an effective tool to find and catch fish, whether you have it in forward mode or you have it in perspective mode, respectively. But I think the venues that we're going to and at the times that we're going to is going to promote more shallow water fishing than what we've had. Last year we had 4 or 5 that were just straight up radar from the get-go. And I don't want to sound like I'm a crusty old dinosaur and I don't want to do it. It's my job, John, to learn technology. It's my job. Whether I like it or not, that's what I need to do. From a fan's perspective, watching a guy fishing like this all day, looking down, I don't think that is bringing many fans to our sport. A flipping stick and the guy saying, I think the fish is going to be over here on the left-hand side because the shadow's over there, and let me drop my jig in there, and there it is, and water goes everywhere. I think that's by far more exciting than a guy looking down, not even talking, So from the fan side, I think we're going to see a lot more different techniques and a lot more different fishing than what we've seen in the last little bit. So hopefully that'll reign true.
Yeah, I think that's the key. I mean, it's got its place, and it's got its fans of watching that. And to your point, the guys that stand up there and they show their screen, JM shows their screen, and they walk you through what they're seeing and what they're doing. That's intriguing to me, even though I stink at it. I'm terrible. I have it on my boat, and I need to learn it better. But that's it. Very intriguing to me to watch that.
Sure.
But if there's a bunch of other techniques going on that JM can switch to, to keep everybody interested, that's only going to be a bonus, I think.
Well, I agree with you there, John. But here's an interesting tidbit. When we got GPS, it robbed from me as an angler, but it created different skills. I think that's what we're going to right now, that when we got GPS, I could be running down Kentucky Lake with my hair on fire, pull the throttle, jump up, drop the trolling motor, and triangulate and get my triangulations right. And first cast with that bait, hit that one stump on that ledge. I could do it every time. Well, I still know that stump's still there. And I pull up to it now and I said, well, I got a waypoint out. It's out here somewhere, and then I go, okay, yeah, line up that tree and that point, line up that boathouse and that tower over there. Oh, there's that stump. That stump never moved. So it robbed those skills from me. I think forward facing is going to create new skills, and it's teaching us so much about fish behavior. I think those are all good things. Sentimentally, I don't like it because I've honed my craft for 50 years. And now the game is played at a much faster speed, that jerkbait and that jig and that spinnerbait and that crankbait, the way I had to go about it, finding those fish with my rod, that's not the fast way to play. These young guys are making a cast at a fish every time they throw. And more often than not, it's a bass. Once you learn how to read and figure out what one looks like on your forward facing, your fishing has just sped up. I think it's time for some rule changes. NASCAR has limitations. Golf has limitations on clubs and balls. Baseball, you can't use an aluminum bat in the pros. I think it's time for those to make the competition more of a level playing field. I'm not saying ban it. I'm not saying disbar it. I'm not saying don't use it, but I'm saying it has to come down. And we've done that at Bass somewhat. I would have liked to have seen a little more stringent regulation on it, but we're only allowed one forward facing unit, and we're only allowed 55 inches of screen on our boats this year. Last year, John, there were guys that had 7 or 8 units on their boats.
Yeah.
4 forward facing, 2 in the front and 2 out the back. And you don't think you couldn't cover the water quicker that way? I'm glad we had a de-escalation of it. I would like to see it go further and be more refined. We all have to use the same basic transducer now. Some of the guys were using saltwater transducers, and they could see fish at 300 feet.
Do you have a suggestion of what you think you would like to see?
Flasher. No, just kidding.
Get Fritz back out there.
That's right. David's got plenty of those 1240As to be put on his
Chris
boat.
Johnson.
I really think what may be the fairest thing, and I've thought about this a bunch, is one tournament, you don't use it, but you use it. We do 9 tournaments in a season, John. 4 would be no forward facing, 4 would be forward facing, and then that 9th tournament, flip a quarter. No forward facing or forward facing. That would be about as non-biased as possible. And I think that would return a lot of competition to a very equitable way to fish for everyone. So I don't know what the best is, but so far that's the one that I think may be the best solution for all of this, for everybody.
Is that on the ABP discussion?
We've had discussions about it, and our participation agreements have been signed, so we're pretty well locked into what we have this year. There won't be any running changes, which is fair. That's fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
Will there be discussions after the season's over? Yeah, probably will be, and we'll see where that goes. I can't fathom what that might look like, but I hope we get it discussed.
I know the folks that work there. I know the tournament managers and stuff, and I can't see them being against that. Really, I really don't.
What year did NASCAR end up having the kind of the governors on cars where they couldn't go?
Restrictor plates.
Yeah, restrictor plate. That's what I'm trying to say. The restrictor plates, and it got exciting again. One car couldn't outrun the other. It came down to the talent of the guy being able to drive. I'd love to see it get back to more pure fishing like it was, but times change, and you have to adapt, or you become a dinosaur and become extinct, like I'm trying not to do right now. So, are you going to
fish anything else besides bass this year? And you said one. Are you fishing one open, or are you fishing
one open? That's the only thing I've added, just because it's Kentucky Lake, and I want to fish here, fish a big tournament here. No, that's pretty much my schedule, are the 9 elites and the one open, and that's about all I have time for. Melissa and I have 7 kids between us, and we've got 5 in college right now. So we're always busy with a ball game or some kind of something. We're going somewhere all the time. And I love my life as it is now, and with my wife and my family here. It's fishing is my vocation, but it is there's more to life than just fishing, and I'm finally learning that at age 60.
There you go. That being said, are you looking towards the end? Are you going to want to go a couple more years, 5 more years, 10 more years?
It's what's going to end my fishing will be my body. I have the desire. Do I want to fish as long as Rick has fished, Clun has fished? No, I really don't think I do, because I've missed so much of my kids' lives doing this to keep them fed and to keep them clothed and to pay that college tuition. I want to go as long as I'm still competitive. But I had a back injury in 2020, and it was a bad back injury. I was lucky I didn't have to have any surgery. But man, John, do you know what a 60-year-old vitamin is?
No.
It's called ibuprofen.
It's also a 59-year vitamin then.
Everything hurts anymore, wrists and elbows from tennis competition and all that flipping and all that deep cranking I've done. And riding in the boats has probably been the worst thing. The best thing that's happened to bass fishing is moving to bigger boats, going from the 18 footers with 150s, which it was fun. God, it was fun. But it really, so many of my friends that came before me, Denny Brower, he's had multiple surgeries, and Zell had multiple back surgeries. Swindle is always going under the knife, and doggone, a lot of that is from riding in those shorter boats that we did in our careers. Now I ride a 21-foot dual console. My wife goes with me sometimes to fish, so I take care of her, and I'll never have another bass boat without it being a dual console. So
going back to 18 footers with 150s is not on the ABP discussion list.
Absolutely not. It is definitely not. That'll be the one thing that we all agree upon.
103 guys.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we're coming on. We've been talking an hour and 45 minutes, an hour and a half with you, Mark. And Dan, I know Danny's a little bit behind us. He's got a little bit of a delay, but he has a couple questions that he always wants to ask. So I'm going to kind of turn it over to him.
All right.
Lag is too bad.
You can do it.
Okay, real quick. Mark, we're switching gears real fast. Traveling around as you have and as you do, one place you look forward to when you see a lake on the schedule, you're like a restaurant or tourist trap, whatever. You have to go there if you're going to that lake.
Well, there's a little restaurant in Detroit. So we're going to St. Clair, and it used to be a little family restaurant over there near the mile marker streets. And they had perch night, yellow perch, all you could eat. And I remember going in there with Guido and Dion and Kenyon and Bernie and all these guys. And they finally told us to leave because we had eaten most of the perch that they had. So that little restaurant is one that I always love to try to find. That was always one of my favorite places to go when we went to St. Clair.
That's hilarious.
Awesome. And 2, that is really good. Okay, so part 2, radar. You mentioned radar a time or two. Craziest thing you've ever seen on your screen. Your most unexplainable thing on screen.
And it can be side imaging.
Yeah, I've seen some stuff that almost looked alive on side scan. I remember coming off of a end of an island, and as it dropped, the end of that island came back up, and the rock structure looked like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. It looked like a damn dinosaur when I came off of that and it came back up. That was kind of cool. I found something on the Mississippi River, and I actually think it was like a barge that was a sunken barge, and the sediment had kind of covered it up, and I could see the front corner of it. And I never could figure out, it looked like Fort Knox or something down there. I never could figure out what that was. Kind of like a spaceship or something. But the T-Rex was probably the coolest thing I ever remember seeing on a depth finder.
That's
very
cool.
So
Yeah.
we went what 2 weeks in a row where the guy said, "Well, I found a body." So
Yeah, that was
very
good.
thankful that you didn't say that.
Yeah, I'm fortunately I've not found one of those yet, but I'm sure it's an amazing tool, and in certain situations, the radar is the greatest way to go, especially in search and recovery.
So that question came from, I was listening to Mercer's podcast, and he had Brandon on, and Brandon found what he thinks is a UFO in Lake Erie. So last week we had Brandon on, and we've been trying to have him on since we heard the story on Mercer. And so it's been like a year. And so we finally got him on. Have you ever heard that story?
I have not heard that. I'll ask him about it when I see him in Florida.
It is quite the story. So he found, and he can go more into details, but he found a cylindrical spaceship. We think is a spaceship, 200 feet across. So when he sat in the middle of the spaceship with his 360, and he set it on 100 feet, it went out to both ends of it around. So it was 100 feet around, and he dropped his aqua view down and in the middle, and it's got like wagon wheel, like hallways from the center out to the edge. But the freakiest thing that we all are still freaked out about, I think, is he said he dropped his drop shot. It's like 40 feet deep. He dropped his drop shot down in the middle, and it never touched bottom. It unspooled his reel.
You need to ask him in person, and then, like do like a public service announcement after the fact, and tell us like the feel you got from him, like when you asked him in person.
All right, I'll do it. Challenge accepted. I'll ask him. Well, he's from Idaho. He's from Idaho. He doesn't get out very often, and so it could be
true.
He could just be making something up. But I know Brandon pretty well and respect him immensely. So maybe it's true.
He said he caught 22 pounds on his first.
Oh, here we go.
When he first found it, he caught 22 pounds off of it. And he's been back there like 6 times and has never seen nor caught a fish off of it.
And the structure is still there?
And the structure is still there.
He just about did everything.
Like the aliens, it's almost like the aliens didn't want him to come back. So there's like, they scared the fish away so that he won't hang around.
Huh. Well, I don't know how to answer that.
My personal opinion of it is really odd, because I thought about it for an entire week, and I'm not going to give it out right at this moment because I'll sound like a kook or a quack, but I'm going to be interested in waiting on that public service announcement come the first of the year for you guys.
Okay, well, I will take the challenge, and as soon as I see him, I'm going to say, "What's up?" Beam me up, Scotty.
Absolutely.
And a thought is get Mercer involved, because he'll do that live thing prior to the launch.
Sure.
And get it on camera so that way he can, help spread the message of what's actually going on.
Well, the
I mean,
best way to get Mercer involved is get him, after the first day's weigh-in at dinner, and with all his Canadian buddies drinking Molson Ale or whatever they drink, and then get Brandon involved. Then it could get good. Then we'll get Matt Robertson to dive down in his tidy whities to see if it's really there.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, because it's only 40 foot. He can hold his breath.
He holds his breath.
Unfortunately, you guys aren't going there this year, so.
Oh yeah, we are.
It's the other end. It's down by St. Lawrence.
It's just a long run.
Yeah. Well, Mark, I mean, it has been a great show, and we have loved having you on, and we'd love to have you on again. Do you have social media that you want to plug, or anything else you want to plug before we?
Well, absolutely, John. You can find me on Instagram at Mark Menendez Bass. You can find me on Twitter or X, whatever you call it, at Mark Menendez. On YouTube, you can go to what's called MM Bass TV, and you'll find past episodes of my television show there. I have a local television show here in the area, and you can find those episodes there. So that's the three major forms of social that I use. And like and subscribe, please.
There you go. We'll do it. And we'd love to have you on again, maybe after you win an event this year, whichever one that is, or 2 or 3.
That sounds great. Keep going, John. I like it. We'll
have you on after everyone, and we wish you the best of luck and a great season. And hopefully, it's just full of good fishing, and we can all get back to enjoying what we did the years previously.
Well, it's going to be a good year. I'm rooming with 2 younger guys. I'm rooming with Will Davis, who I've known since he was about 10 years old, and one of the Federation guys, Tim Doobie from New Hampshire. And we have a damn lot of fun.
Wow.
It makes an old guy get up early in the morning and enjoy this, because the pure joy those 2 guys have for it. Will has become a very accomplished and winning angler, and Tim is learning the trade right now. And we just have there's 3 guys that just get along, and we cook and we laugh, and we'll have a beer or 2, and we work together and support one another. And it's just a lot of fun. And so that makes that 4-mile drive a little easier, knowing that I'm getting ready to go hang out with a couple of really close friends and get the job done. But I appreciate it, guys. Thank you all so much for having me. I'd love to come back, and we can talk about Bigfoot and spaceships and things like that.
Yes.
We'll get more evidence. We'll get the BFRO on here, and and then we'll get the guy with the tall hair on the Ancient Alien show. So we'll get them on here as well. So,
oh yeah.
But
Mark, thank you for what you've done. Thank you for what you do, and I look forward to getting some good fantasy fishing points with you.
All right, well, guys, thank you. I've had a great evening tonight. Thanks for having me. We'll see you all next time.
Yep, thanks, Mark. Appreciate you. See ya.
Mark Menendez.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Holy cow. I knew it was going to be good. I didn't know it was going to be that good. Wow. I hope you guys can hear me.
We can hear you.
You're good.
Okay. Scrolling back up here to where Richard said something. Yes, Richard Fitzwater a little bit ago said, I wish we had 8 hours with Mark, because this is one of the most informative podcasts I've watched. Absolutely, it was. Good night.
Yeah. We're getting a little better at winging it. Like, I feel like maybe if I'd write some questions down, that we wouldn't have any awkward pauses. But that one wasn't too bad. We had like 1 or 2.
Oh, Kyle has questions.
Oh, you got to jump in if you just got to jump in.
That's some notes actually too.
Oh,
That's not, those are not all questions.
yeah,
He was taking down the juice.
yeah.
No, I mean,
Wow.
I'm not gonna lie. I've got notes from our very first one all the way till now of different opinions of what guys have talked about and different things, and it's pretty interesting just to kind of. I've sat out here from time to time and just flip back, and been like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea, just instead of having to I say that, don't take this the wrong way, but instead of having to re-listen to every episode, it's kind of nice just to have a note here and there about and get to look back. So
Yeah, that's awesome. So I wanted to take a quick poll of our listeners and see if they noticed anything on the opening. There was actually two things to notice, guys. I don't know if anybody noticed. Anybody?
Anybody? Anyone? Bueller?
while we're patiently
Bueller?
away, we've got a couple of cool things coming up in the near future, right? So Danny, we were kind of talking a little bit
Man.
earlier this week. We've got the boat show coming up. We talked about it before the show got really crazy there there at the beginning. We're going to go live and do some things, try to do some things kind of in the mobile version at the boat show on the 24th and 25th. Try to get a couple of our vendors involved and talk to some cool people. We got Rick Clun is going to be there, which that'll be exciting, and I'm sure we'll try and have a quick chat with him in between the other 350, 400 people that'll be crowding around him, I'm sure. But I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully the weather holds out for that. I know it's supposed to get cold again, but hopefully the roads stay clear so we can get a decent crowd.
When is it again? And what are the times? And where is it?
Yeah, so I'm gonna screw the times up, but January 24th, that's a Friday. That is the beginning of the show, and it starts at 2:00. January 24th, and it goes from 2 to 7 on the 24th, and then on the 25th, I believe the doors will open to the boat show at 9, and the show will wrap up somewhere around 4:30 or 5. There's a couple of guest speakers that I know fairly well. Rick Clun is obviously the one that I want to talk about the most, and I look forward to the most listening to. Those will be on Saturday. I heard a little birdie say that Clun was going to be there both days. I don't know if Roseanne has actually announced that or not. She's tried to do some recent things on her social media, Albers Marine social media, and spotlighting some of the vendors one at a time on there. So the boat show announcement flyer that she comes out with is on Facebook and Albers Marine Facebook. You should be able to find it on there fairly easily. And we've got another podcast coming up. We'll be able to remind everybody then as well.
9 to 6, I believe, on Saturday. David's reminding us over there in the comments.
So yes, gotta screw the times up.
If
You
you're there at
kids.
9, you'll be all right.
Stay all day.
I had the idea, and my internet is not cooperating. I was gonna, since Mark mentioned Clun a few times there and talked about him being his all-time hero, I was gonna ask Mark to give us something to ask Rick for him. That would have been interesting.
Yeah. I would have.
And also I would have told, had I not been lagging and stuff, I would have told Mark, hey, while you're at the East Tennessee show, walk over to the Clutch Swim Bait booth and introduce yourself to Josh, our Kansas Bass Nation social media director, and become acquainted with some of his $150 to $250 swim baits.
Yeah.
I bet he'd make him a deal.
I bet he would too. I bet he would too. Jack Graves wins the prize. He noticed the new logo. We had a new logo, but there was one other thing that was new that nobody's mentioned yet. I don't know if this group is going to notice either, because they're not like you and I, Kyle, Crank.
Yeah.
They're
That's
not.
okay.
They're not into that. I mean, Danny is. I don't know if Kiki is, but
I
don't pick up on that stuff as quickly as Mr. Crank and I would. I don't think.
I listen to a lot of different kinds of music.
Oh, you just gave it away.
I listen to a lot of different kinds of music. The harder stuff, I tend to go a little bit older, so I like some of the older metal, and
Like, for instance,
Dio.
Okay.
Ronnie James
Ooh.
Dio.
Holy diver.
I'm a Dio kind of guy. I think Sabbath is good. Some of those, but you know, honestly, I was just listening to the Eagles before the show started, so I go all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So
I do too.
We have a new
I go
theme
from
song too.
Chris Body. Yes, we do have a new theme song.
So you have to stick around to the very end. We'll play it again.
Yep.
That's, that'd be a fun question to start asking. What's your walk-up song?
I had that idea. I think that'd be fun.
Well, okay. So, producer Crank, you're going to qualify for the Classic next year. What's your walk-up song?
It's probably going to be Whitewashed by August Burns Red, if they allow me to play it. It's heavy, but August Burns Red is a clean band, so. But that would jazz me up more than anything, rolling in the boat into the Coliseum, to weigh my fish in, hearing that song play. It's probably top 3 favorite song ever.
Nice.
Sweet.
Yep.
Kiki?
Probably something
John.
Bon Jovi. I know that sounds odd, but probably something Bon Jovi.
I can see it.
Are you a sophomore girl or what?
I told you, I know it sounds odd, but I like me some Bon Jovi.
Yeah, that's all right. I had a walk-up song. For the nation championship when Mercer was still doing it. Mercer had his walkout music and I had mine.
Metallica.
Down with the Sickness.
Oh, nice.
Like it.
That's a good one.
Action.
Mm-hmm. That's mine.
Oh,
Danny?
man. I got like 20.
Yours could be something very, very different.
The first classic I went to, the first classic I went to, good night. I'm drawing a complete blank. One of the guys played 2 Chainz. I'm Different.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that was pretty awesome. Man, some old school, some old Beastie Boys like Sabotage, or oh man, some Motorhead. Something crazy.
Yeah,
It'd be something like that.
Yep.
that's a good one. We should probably do that question.
Yeah, that's a good one. But just as a little background, the theme music we've had has been from my personal stuff I've made before, but I felt like this show deserved something on its own. So I decided to go ahead and get it recorded and got it professionally done for us. So shout out to Dustin Ritter in Manhattan, Kansas. He does all my recording stuff. He does great work, Bullet Ride Productions. So, yep. So that's what we got now. We got the official theme music.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Awesome stuff.
New theme music for the new year.
And if any of you are
Continue.
Poor guy.
man,
Nice froze.
I know what is causing this, so I've got a plan. Aggravating. Oh, the technology. Isn't it awesome when it works?
Well, gentlemen,
shall we take it out?
Let's play the new music for them. Let's get out of here.
Take it out.
Guys, thanks for watching.